All right, Coach. I think I fixed it. I think you
Okay.
can share your screen now.
There it is. All right, so you guys will see it now. Let me, where's my PowerPoint? There we go. All right, maybe a thumbs up. Hey, Scott, I can see you. Can everybody see my PowerPoint, Scott? Okay, good. All right, so since it's such a small group, I think you guys just kind of jump in with questions, and it'd be kind of like a Glazier clinic. You guys can just kind of jump in. You know, when there's like 100 people, it gets a little harder to do that. Man, I don't know why that's popping up. Okay, I need to get rid of this black screen somehow. I can't do the PowerPoint presentation. That black thing's in the way. There we go. All right, so nope, I don't want to do that. All right, everybody can see the full screen now? No?
Just half of it.
Just half of it.
All yeah, right, it looks like it's cut in half.
Yep, I know what happened. Let me just duplicate it. I've got a split screen on my computer, so that's why. All right, so everybody can see it.
Yeah, it looks good.
Guys,
now.
I'm just gonna fly through it. This is my the talk I give at Glazier. So I don't care if the microphones are on, Coach. Just guys can just jump in with questions, and we'll just kind of flow through this. So real quick, I jokingly talk about in California, I coach at IBM schools. Like I said, I'm not in California or Fresno. IBM, we jokingly call itty bitty Mexicans. I started my career at McFarland, the 1 in 19 program. It's the movie with Kevin Costner. And it's what we out here, we call them farm labor camps. And McFarland is literally 100% Hispanic. Now, I'm not trying to be racist. My wife's Hispanic, so that makes my kids like 48% Hispanic. But, I mean, they're great kids. When you talk about family and culture, the Hispanic culture is all about family. They are very unselfish. And out here where I live, it's very hot. In the summer, it'll get up to 110, 120 degrees. And these kids will go out and work 8 hours in 120-degree weather, picking grapes and cotton and things like that. So they're very strong, tough, resilient kids. They never get injured. They never complain. If they're first generation from Mexico, they're very appreciative of an education. I taught physics and chemistry, and they never miss school. But, they don't grow them very big, right? Hispanic kids are small. So, and when I got there, what had happened was a kid had died the year before on a kickoff. And so being that everybody's from Mexico and they don't love American football the way we do, none of the mothers would let their kids play football. And there was no weight room in the entire town because it's what we call a farm labor camp. A town like McFarland, basically the government subsidizes the entire town so that these immigrants have somewhere to live so they can go pick their grapes. I think 90% of all the table grapes, this isn't wine grapes, so the grapes you pop in your mouth, they come from McFarland and another town called Delano. But anyways, kind of a small school, no weight room, and this is what we had to go with, right? Then we turned it around. Then I went up the road to another school, a little bit bigger. We turned the shower into a weight room, and, I had to build that up. I only kind of tell that to give into perspective of some of you guys are from small schools that, I kind of started out here with that. I want to say something too. In California, we play double headers on Fridays. So when we say there's no JV or there is a JV, JV kicks off at 5 p.m. on Friday night. Varsity kicks off at 7 p.m. And freshmen play on Thursdays. And we have a law in California that a freshman cannot hit a senior. So even if you try to combine, even if he's holding a bag, a senior cannot block or hit or do anything to a freshman. So historically, you just kind of keep your freshmen separated. Then I went up to a larger program with 1,800 kids. Division I's the biggest in California. There's 13 classifications. 1,800 puts us in about Division III in California. It's still considered a pretty large division. Division I's all the private schools, the ones you guys see on TV. But to give you an idea, these are very poor programs. we were able to grow the program and do some things. So my talk and what I do on offense and what I do on defense, it comes from this perspective. And in this was like a 12-year run for me as head coach. I never had a scholarship player. I never had anybody get any kind of money to play Division II or Division I. I had a couple of very high academic kids go Division III, like NAIA, and I had some kids go junior college route. But we weren't having like these tremendous athletes. Now, we didn't suck. Our kids were pretty good, and we took a lot of pride in the weight room. So, and I'm going to kind of stop there because this talk's going to digress, but I would say the secret to all of those turnarounds really was the weight room. I got it started with the assistant coaches, and then it takes time, but slowly over time, you get the admin to buy in. And we just always figured out a way to get the kids to lift weights. At McFarland, there was no weight room, so everything was outdoors. It was push-ups and walking lunges and pull-ups. And the kids don't buy in right away. That's a lot of work. All of these programs, we lifted at 6 a.m., so it was hard to get the kids to wake up. I had lots of attendance issues. And you know what I did? I just went to their house. If you missed weight training and I couldn't find you in school, after school or that night on my way home, I went to your house. I went and sat in the living room and I sat with mom and dad, or maybe just mom, and I got to the bottom of why he was missing, and just found solutions. In all these turnarounds, I probably would visit about 20 houses every spring and just get the buy-in. The other thing that really worked with the weight room was it was an old commercial about tell a friend. We called it bring a friend. So the kids that were dedicated, they're showing up, right? They want to win. And like you see the slide, we started with 13 players. I turned to those 13 players and said, every one of you have to bring one kid. It took like a month or two, but eventually we hit 26, and that was a big thing. We celebrated that. Then I turned to those 26. All right, you guys all got to be a friend. Now, a year later, we were able to double that number and get 52 kids to come. We didn't hit the 90 until really at the beginning of year 4. And by then, once they start showing up, it gets contagious. The other thing about getting the kids to the weight room is high energy. I would always leave the weight room just dripping in sweat. I did not sit in the weight room on my phone. I didn't walk around laughing with kids. They were on a whistle like rack performance. We rotated. It was fast. It was energetic. I was just always screaming and yelling very positively, and everybody was moving. And so what the kids started to buy into, not overnight, but what they eventually bought into was, if you're going to get your butt out of bed at 6 in the morning, you're going to get a great workout. We also battle these kids saying, well, I've got a personal trainer, or I work out at home, or I have a gym membership. We really were able to sell the fact that when you came to our weight room, there was no gym or private trainer that was going to give you the workout the way that we worked out. And it was just really fast and very high paced. And then what happens over time, if you're really busting them and getting them stronger, pretty soon kids start taking their shirts off. Pretty soon kids start talking and saying, hey, I just hit 200 on bench. I just hit 400 on squat. And they start talking to their friends. And then pretty soon kids started showing up because they saw our results. And then, we got basketball players that are now grabbing the rim. And so the other basketball players are like, what the heck happened to you? You can touch the rim. You couldn't even touch the net last year. I had a 120-pound shortstop hit 7 home runs his senior year. And in the paper, he said, I owe it all to Coach Stewart. I never coached baseball a day in my life. But, those 7 home runs was because we spent so much time on our core. Well, the next year, 7 of the starting baseball players came to the weight room. And they didn't all play football. I had lots of kids show up to the weight room, and I didn't bust their chops. I didn't bust their chops about that. I definitely would say that one of the keys was definitely great question about the breakfast, Scott. Great questions. So I spent there's a thing I put on Twitter about the things that wives say. If you guys haven't seen my Twitter thing, you got to watch that video some guy made. It's freaking hilarious. And I can't tell you how many times wife says, why are we paying for that? Or did you pay for that? So Scott, to answer your question is, yeah, I'd say about every 2 weeks, I'm going down to Costco, buying that big tub of peanut butter. Um, Here we have bread stores. You can go buy day-old bread. If it's a day or two old, it's like $1 a loaf. Sometimes they just gave me the bread for free. And if I had an injured player, or you always have that crap that the basketball players won't lift on game day, baseball players won't lift on game day, those kids would still show up, and they'd make lots of peanut butter sandwiches. We'd slice up bananas and put them on them. I used to buy, they changed the rule, you couldn't do it, but we bought a big tub of protein. So every kid would leave the weight room with a protein shake and a peanut butter sandwich. Then they changed those rules because this was back in the 2000s, and they changed the rules that coaches couldn't give out protein. So I went to the cafeteria because our schools were so poor. The cafeteria would deliver 3 or 4 crates of chocolate milk in the morning. So the kids would leave and with a peanut butter sandwich and a chocolate milk. And then I really trained them on nutrition about throw a couple hard-boiled eggs in your backpack. Tuna fish sandwiches, and we talked about how cheap tuna fish is, and we made jokes about how to make a tuna fish sandwich, and the kids would really start buying into just throwing things in their backpack. And so that's kind of how we solved the breakfast problem. And it almost becomes humorous. It almost becomes like the kids have a chip on their shoulder, like first of all, we're lifting at 6 a.m. We're just eating peanut butter sandwiches, and we always would make fun of the rich school down the road, saying, oh yeah, they probably have the chefs coming in, and they've got Grey Poupon, and so it became a running joke with our kids, and it kind of became a battle cry for us. So that's how we solved that. But that's a great question, Scott, because you can't do it without nutrition, because if they don't eat breakfast, the school lunch sucks, so they're going to get like a bologna sandwich and a carrot at 11 a.m. And then if they're playing a spring sport, they may not eat dinner till like 7 p.m. So the other thing we really preach on the kids, that stuff they throw in the backpacks, I tell them, you've got to have something at 10 in the morning. I don't care what it is, even if it's a candy bar, put something in your belly at 10 in the morning. I go eat whatever crap the cafeteria serves up and don't bitch about it. And then the kids would bring their protein powders to school if they were a multiple sport athlete. And I would tell them, you've got to make your protein shake at 3 o'clock before you went out to baseball or track or basketball. And I really explained to the kids why that if you went 7 or 8 hours without eating, then ketosis kicks in and your body's going to hang on to the fat, number one. And number two, when you go to practice, your body's going to actually have to burn the muscle, right, for energy. So you're defeating the purpose of getting stronger and bigger, because all that muscle you built up in the morning, your body's going to eat that muscle for energy in the afternoon because you haven't ate for 7 hours. And so I had a whole nutrition talk, and I'd spend 2 or 3 days talking to the kids about this. On the weight room, let's see, Eric, Coach, does your governor body allow you to make weight room mandatory? No. I've been in front of the school board 3 different times about stuff like this, where people would take me to the school board over summer and what I was requiring as mandatory. So yeah, that's a tough line, right? That's where you really have to sell the kids. And this is where I'd go visit the house and sell the parents on the buy-in. But no, I could not make it mandatory. But what ends up happening is, if you do it right, over time the peer pressure kicks in, and the kids do show up. But I had a mom who was a lawyer, took me to the school board, and her son did not show up all summer, and he was an all-league defensive back. And I didn't penalize him. I mean, he took me to the school board, and what was I going to do? So it caused some rift on our team. We had to talk about it. That boy got up in front of the team in tears, crying, telling the team, like, hey, I wanted to show up all the summer, but my mom was going to prove a point to Coach Stewart, so she forbid me to come. The players forgave him, and so I didn't have any problem starting him on game 1, even though he missed all summer. The way I've gotten around it, Eric, is I've tried to get the admin support me and at least make my class a letter grade. If somehow they could turn my weight room class into an elective where I could give a grade, then I could do the mandatory thing, right? I probably had more problems with summer weight training than I have spring weight training. And summer weight training, we usually go at 9 a.m. and try to get around it. But that's a tough one, and I've been a head coach now for 18 years, and I have battled that at every level, the undefeated teams and the 0-10 teams. And I've never been 0-10, but I've been 2-8 several times. There's just some mom or some kid who's going to prove a point with you. If the kid by himself is choosing not to go and the parents aren't making an issue about it, I bench him. He don't play. It's when the parents fight me on it and the kid's kind of like a victim between the parents and me, and the parents are trying to prove a point. So anyways, let's kind of move on and what we're doing. So I coach in Pennsylvania now. It's kind of a cool story. I live in California, but a guy flies me back there in the fall, and I coach for him. It's kind of a cool experience. In fact, I go back there July 7th. So we're a little bit north of Harrisburg, and that's been a really good experience for us. And I enjoy going back there and coaching in a different part. It's going to be really cool this year since California won't have football. So what we do, okay, why isn't that not clicking here? There we go. All right. Obviously, it starts with the players, and the playbook is important, right? But I really do believe this. You find it 4-3, 3-3 stack, 4-2-5, double wing, shotgun, air raid. There's somebody winning a state title. I mean, heck, Rick Darlington wins a state title running the gosh darn single wing, right? What you find in common is the players' buy-in and that love and trust, right? And I know early in my career, that was my problem, is I was too caught up in the X's and O's. And so I spend all off season, it's almost daily, just beating my kids over the head about, not being selfish and love and trust. And in the Hispanic culture, there's a lot of love, but they won't ever say it. A boy will not say, I love you to another boy or to his coach. And so when he's got coaches going around saying, hey, I love you, Jose, and you're hugging Jose, that's mind-blowing to them. And the home visits, I can't tell you how many kids have told me later on, you talk to them later and say, hey, Jimmy, what turned it around? Coach, I can't believe you came to my house. That blew me away, Coach. Nobody from the school has ever come to my house. They always make my parents go to the school when I'm in trouble. You showed up to my house, Coach. And when I left, my mom's like, you're going to play for that man. That man cares about you. So this was a big evolution in my career, was trying to shift from, and I'm known as the pistol wing T guy, and I think our offense is pretty good. But if I ever found the right coordinators, I would turn the X's and O's over in a heartbeat and just focus on this stuff, about that stuff. So another thing we did, when I get to a losing program, it's kind of late right now in this talk, especially since we're on quarantine, but when I'm first at a school and I don't make the playoffs, I'm going to contact winning coaches in my area and get a school van. And whoever's not out for basketball, hey guys, get in the van. Tuesdays, we're going to go over to, St. Bernard Catholic's practice. And I've called Tom in advance. And of course, Tom's honored they were showing up. So he always comes out of his way and introduces his players. I'd say if I have a roster of about 30 players, I usually can get about 10 or 12 to the practice. I'm okay with a small number because I know the kids will go back to the school the next day talking about this playoff practice. And, if you pick the right head coach and the right playoff practice, what are your kids going to see at that playoff practice? They're going to see kids sprinting to water. They're going to see kids with their helmets on. They're going to see kids saying, yes, coach, no, coach. And then your kids, and then I always make sure when we're done that I take all the boys out to pizza. Obviously, I pay for it, or the boosters pay for it. And we just talk for a little bit and say, hey, guys, what'd you see? And it's amazing. Like, they're just blown away. They think because this team make the playoffs, they're going to see all these D1 players flying around. And they're like, Coach, they look like us. Coach, in fact, they're smaller than us. Okay, then why are they in the playoffs and we're not? And we talk about that. And then I let my kids be the ambassadors the next day, and they'll tell the basketball players and the wrestlers what they saw. So every week, so Tuesday or Wednesday, we go to a playoff practice, and then whoever's practice we went to, we take everybody on Friday night to that game, and we watch those playoff games. Because you sit there and preach, we're going to make playoffs, we're going to make playoffs. Well, what if a kid's never been to a playoff game? Because your school's always been losing, right? So that's one thing we do. College spring practices are a big deal. Again, with this pandemic, who knows, right? NCAA is going to be shut down. But because at a college practice, they're going to see these college athletes doing all the stuff you preach. And so these are things I do because it was a really big deal. Out here in California, there's a really successful coach named Tim Murphy. He's averaged 15 wins a year for about 20 years. Well, he ran a team camp right up the road from us. And he invited teams way bigger than us, right? We had no business being in that camp. So I called him and begged him. So we went up there the first year, and he put us against all the other smaller schools. He put us against the big schools' JV teams. It was kind of humiliating. So the next day I called him. I said, Tim, you've got to let me scrimmage you. He's like, Coach, there's no way. You know, we're D1. We were undefeated last year. You were 2-8. I go, let me scrimmage your third stringers. Just don't tell my players they're your third stringers. So we went out and scrimmaged our third stringers. They scored 2 touchdowns. We scored 1. And our kids got this pride of that they could compete, right? And the thing with the 7-on-7s, I don't like this whole thing of, oh, I'm just going to grab my buddy and we're going to throw together on Wednesday nights. No, I want my teams going to 7-on-7 tournaments because I want them to see how winners compete and how do winners act. It's not about the competition. You go and the winning teams in the playoffs every year, they go to these 7-on-7s in camps. They're all matching. They're spirit packs. Everybody matches. All the coaches, all the way the players talk. So I think kids need to see it, right? We sit in front of all the time and preach it, but do they see it? I show them videos of Michael Jordan. I show them videos of athletes, even other sport athletes that carry themselves well. And I say, you can spot a winner. You can spot a winner as soon as he walks in the restaurant. You can spot a winner walking down the road, the way he walks, the way he talks, the way he carries himself. And we're always doing that. Bigger, faster, stronger. I don't know if they make it anymore. I haven't done this in a couple of years, but bigger, faster, stronger. Every year, every week in their website would come up with these articles of 0-10 teams who won the championships. And I would always Xerox those and pass those out in the weight room, and we would talk about them. And so kids could visualize that, hey, we're not going to always be losers. You know, we're going to go somewhere. Another thing in your program is you've got to have things where everyone can be a superstar, right? How do you motivate the kid who, A, knows he's not going to start, or B, knows he's never going to score a touchdown? So have some things where every kid on your team feels like a superstar, right? So anytime we have a water break, linemen go first. And the backs and receivers, we call them the skinnies and the backs. That's another thing. We do not use the word skill player. To call a running back the skill players, that's insulting to the linemen. Because playing line takes more skill than any of those other positions. So we call them bigs, backs, and skinnies. That's how we call our kids, bigs, backs, and skinnies. And the backs and the skinnies know that if I say water, they have to wait till we all break as a team, but the linemen go get it, and then the backs and skinnies get behind them. Our team meals, everything. I take a lot of flack for this. After the game, newspaper comes out, hey, we want to talk to so-and-so. They always want to talk to the kid who scored 4 touchdowns. And I say, no, our team policy is you can only interview linemen. And the reporter sometimes gets pissed off at me, but I don't budge. I say, if you want to interview anybody, you're only going to interview the lineman. Because whether or not you interview my running back, you're going to put my running back in the paper tomorrow. He just scored 5 touchdowns. But I need you to interview our lineman. And actually, the running backs buy into that, and they'll tell the reporter, hey, I'm not allowed to be interviewed. Would you interview my lineman? So we'd make it a big deal. Those helmet stickers, right? Kids will murder their grandmother for a helmet sticker. We really skew it so that the linemen's helmets are full of stickers, so they have lots of pride, right? You've got to do things for your special teams players. A scout player of the week. We always vote at our team dinner on Thursday. We name our scout player of the week, and the scout player of the week, he gets to carry he leads the team out of the tunnel with the flag. So there's a motivation to go hard on the scout team, and you can't be a scout player 2 weeks in a row. So we're always sharing that. So it's not always the stud or the captain who's carrying out the flag. I'll tell you what else too. We don't let our players vote on captains because that's just a popularity contest. You know, our coaches pick the captains, and we pick them every week. Let's be honest. Do you really need to vote on a captain all year? What does a captain do? He goes out to the coin flip, right? I've already built my leaders, and we're going to get to it because we have a pretty intense off-season leadership program. So I've already developed our leaders. I don't need to pick them. I've groomed them and trained them. So every week we just rotate kids that deserve it based on effort and hustle. Sometimes it's a player of the week. If a kid had a really good game, we might let him be a captain the next week. But our captains rotate every week. You know, rewarding the defense. Defensive players don't get a name in the papers as much as the offensive players. So we really go out of our way to reward things for defense, right? A lights out shirt is the kid who you know, the biggest hit of the week. Another one that's not on there that's a big deal. Anytime we get a 3 and out, we do our team dinners every Thursday night. Whoever was on the field during a 3 and out, those 11 defensive players get a sticker. At the end of the season, we want our defense and our offensive linemen to have triple the stickers as the quarterback, receivers, and running backs. So any 100-yard rusher, every lineman gets a sticker. Any 300-yard rushing game, every lineman gets a sticker. Quarterback doesn't get sacked, every lineman gets a sticker. Every lineman, even the backups. If we score a touchdown, all the linemen that were on the field for that touchdown play, they get a sticker. So the running back gets a sticker, but so do all the linemen. So you've got to make sure that there's lots of areas where players can be a superstar. And this goes back to the weight room. Everyone can be a superstar. Your worst player can be a superstar in the weight room because he can increase his bench every week by 5 or 10 pounds. He might hit 300-pound squat. He may be the worst football player in your team, but he hits those plateaus and he's leaving the weight room feeling like, I'm getting stronger, and we do things for attendance. They get a patch for their jacket. You have to go to so many hours in the weight room to get your name on your jersey. So really making sure that, how do for lack of a better word, how do your non-star players feel special? And then those kids come out the next year and then they tell their friends, and I don't care who you are, and I don't care what industry, whether it's work or sports, kids or adults, family or church. People want to be part of something special. And when you're part of something, whatever it is, from a rock concert to a church group to your favorite NFL team to work, we've all worked at those schools. It's high energy and the principal's awesome and the teachers are awesome and you enjoy going to work every day. And some of us have been on those campuses where all the teachers are negatives, they complain all the time, and the principal's a total butthead. And you're like, how soon can I transfer out of this school? Make your program just this positive energy and not about the superstars. And the word spreads then, because kids will talk and they'll say, man, you want to play football, man. It's badass. We have team dinners. We have stickers. We go on trips. And coaches, coaches don't play favorites. Although I do have my speech, right? I do play favorites. I play favorites for the kids who show up every day and bust their ass. Those are my favorites. So those are things we do. Again, this podcast is a little bit late, but so season gets over. I'm going to make sure that I meet with every player. Now, if I have a larger program, I can't really do the one-on-one meetings. So I'm okay with small groups, like groups of 3 or 4. I don't meet by positions. I meet by attitudes. The 3 or 4 kids that are just outstanding and it doesn't going to take a very long meeting, I'll call them in. And then the 3 or 4 Johnny Turds, I'm going to call them in. But if possible, if you have the time, I would meet with every player one-on-one. In fact, in the pandemic right now, if I was a head coach, I would probably be meeting with every player one-on-one in a Zoom meeting because I would have nothing but time in my hands. I'm listening. I have this whole sheet. If you guys email me, I'll send you the sheet. It's just like this list of questions that I give the players, and they just talk. I do very little commenting, and I'm just taking notes. Because you'll be amazed. Some of the players will tell you some very revealing things that you need to know in every program. I come back in January. Okay, so I've met with the players. I've done this with the coaches, also one-on-one meetings. Before I go to Christmas break, I meet with the principal and AD. I'm still listening. This is where the principal and AD get to tell me what they like and what they don't like. And sometimes they go in those meetings with surprises, right? They can tell me something. I go home in California, we get 3 weeks off. I take Christmas and New Year's break to kind of digress. I get in some books. I unplug. I spend some family time. I show back up in January. Now I've got a vision, right? Maybe I've changed one of our core values. I've changed some things we're going to do. I go back and meet with those players and the coaches, and now I'm talking. And this takes a lot of time, right? But it's so powerful. Think about in your workplace or even in your marriage, if you weren't having these meetings. What if you didn't have an evaluation from your boss? What if you didn't meet? As much as we hate going to those department meetings, I mean, I despise our science department meetings. But what if we never met? Then how can you be on the same page if you don't even have a page? So these meetings are important. And guys, I'm telling you, it was lots of 6 p.m.s and 7 p.m.s, and I wish I was home with my family. But these meetings were really important. And when I meet with the coaches, that's never in groups. It's always one-on-one, and it's always at a very non-threatening setting. It's at a bar, it's at a restaurant, it's in my back patio with a bear. I want the assistant coach to feel like we're just talking, and I want him to feel free to talk. If I met with him in my office or on campus, he'd feel like it was a formal meeting, because I want those assistant coaches talking. I have a form for the players, and I have a form for the coaches, what the questions are that I ask. We come back in May. We try to meet the players, but we're busy in May. You know, you got car washes, you're getting ready for summer, you know, you're really busy. So sometimes it's just written evaluations, but I let every player know, where are you at in the program right now? Hey, in December, you told me you want to be a starter. Now it's May. Guess what, Johnny? You're still not a starter, because in January, we talked about you had to hit these goals academically and in the weight room, and you haven't hit them yet, Johnny. So, Johnny, you're still our second string wide receiver. You're still our second string linebacker. And the kids appreciate it. And I tell them, so now you get all summer to change my mind. One of my most not famous, that's the wrong word. One of the sayings I love saying is, prove me wrong. I love being proved wrong. So when I meet these players and tell them, you're not where we need you to be. You're not a starter, or you are a starter, but you're not going to be all league the way you are right now. And I always tell the kid, but man, you understand, I'm praying every day that you prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. But I think the kids need to know where they're at. And then we do it again in August. And this is hard. In 2 days and stuff, it's really hard. But I make sure, and my position coaches help me a lot. It's almost always in writing in August. We don't have time to meet with all the players. We'll have a team meeting, and then we give everybody their evaluations in an envelope. And it's usually a Friday or a Saturday. They can go home. They can open their evaluations. And we're telling them, all right, season starts. We're scrimmaging so-and-so next week. And this is where you're at in our program. Prove us wrong. Prove us wrong. So I think this is very important about giving players feedback. If you want to build your numbers, you can't lose anybody to grades. You cannot lose anybody to grades. And grades cannot be of, oh, we're going to do a couple grade checks in the fourth quarter. Like right now, you guys are probably all frantically on the Zooms, making sure your kids are logging into their online courses. Academics has to be year round. And the way I get help, and it ties into my leadership program, is I meet with the leaders that I've identified every other Monday night, the whole off season. And it's the John Maxwell and Kite and some of these great resources. Parker, that book by Parker is a great one. I think it's right here on my desk. It's called Coaching to Change Lives. So I have a curriculum and I've taught the leaders, right? But what good is it if you're always lecturing about how to be a leader, but you never let your kids be a leader? So this kid, they get to practice with it, what we're preaching. So we have a draft night. It's in January. We order a bunch of Domino's pizza on a Monday night. I pull the roster up and I say, start picking players. And they initially are going to pick their friends, but I tell them, this group that you pick, this is how we're going to keep attendance in the weight room. This is how we're going to do fundraisers. So if you pick a bunch of Johnny Turds because they're your friends, you're not going to win any of the fundraising stuff. You're not going to win any of the pizza parties for like that stuff. And anytime somebody in your team misses, your whole team pays. So let's say one of you guys, you coaches here listening to me tonight, are a senior captain. I say, okay, draft your team. And you draft 4 guys under you, and you're the leader. And Johnny Turd misses. Well, when Johnny Turd shows up, your whole group does the penalty, not Johnny Turd. When we do fundraising, whoever sells the most car wash tickets, whoever sells the most gold cards, that's an incentive, and we give incentives, you know, pizza or no running, no conditioning. It's always as a group. We don't do anything as an individual. You pay as a group, you get rewarded as a group. And so the message to Johnny Turd is you're letting people down. And the message to these guys is you're only as good as your weakest link. So we form these groups, and it's really a powerful thing. And it also allows us to stay in communication in the off season and break down these cliques. Because if you were a senior leader for me, you might have a sophomore on your team. And, you know, on campus, a senior and a sophomore probably are not going to hang out. They're in totally different circles. Well, this forces the people my players to start interacting. It saves me a lot of time too, because they're in charge of collecting all the grade checks. They're in charge of collecting all the fundraisers. They're in charge of all of our Saturday team building. I'll get to that here in a second. We do a lot of things on Saturday in the off season for team building, paintball and dodgeball and things like that. The seniors organize all that. They organize the car wash, and empower them. Let them practice being a leader. It's not, you're a junior in May, and then June 7th hits, and you say, "Damn it, Jimmy, you're a senior. You should know better." Well, coach, 14 days ago, I was a junior. Like, how do I know better? So, there's a whole training that has to go on and what you do. Okay. So this student tree program has really helped us, not only for our leaders, but I think it's brought up our bottom kids, because our bottom kids realize that they're part of a team, and this is not an individual thing that we're trying to do. So that's what my kind of roster looks like, and I break them up. So Hector Delgado's 12 is his senior. Everybody's got their phone numbers so they can text message each other. Like I said, I coached a really poor school. Some kids didn't have cell phones, and Hector Delgado was accountable for these 4 players. So anything that happened in that group, good or bad, and then I assigned an assistant coach to every group also. So the assistant coaches was in charge, because I had a lot of walk-on coaches. Not everybody was teachers in the building. So every assistant coach had to reach out to their team once a week. So that way, because you're building a relationship with your coaches. So that's kind of how we do that. So it ties in our academic game plan, because the senior leaders are helping me do all this. All this stuff I'm preaching, one man by myself, I couldn't do all this. It's physically impossible. So there's lots of delegation. And sometimes with the assistant coaches, it's hard to delegate because they have lives and they sell real estate, or they're correction officers. They have real jobs. So I had to depend a lot on my seniors on campus. That Porterville, that school of 1,800, we suited up 220 kids in 2011. 220 football players on our roster. There's only me and the D coordinator were the only 2 teachers. The other 16 coaches were off campus. They had some kind of off-campus job. So the way I managed 220 football players, I had a very strong group of about 12 to 15 seniors, and they were damn near assistant coaches. I mean, I gave them a lot of jobs to do to help me keep track of these 220, hormone raging teenagers running around during the spring. We really take some time to teach study skills. And I'm very proud of our record. As a head coach, I've only lost 1 player to grades in 18 years, and I've had another player be on academic probation. I've always been able to keep all my kids eligible, but we spend a lot of time teaching them, how to do this. And there's some really cool resources online of how to do that. But it's just, if you guys have Avid in Massachusetts, we have Avid out here. It's just good Avid skills, right? Be organized, have a binder, take notes, have an assignment calendar. And we set aside some time to teach kids how to study and how to do that. And, we always preach about we're going to build young men, but all of our energy goes in our playbook, right? If we're really about preaching young men, then we'd be preaching leadership and character and get good grades. And another big thing out of my mouth is not everybody's got to go to college. I have to really pound that out of the kids' heads, because the counselors pounded in their heads that if you don't go to college, you're a loser. And I spend a lot of energy on that, saying, go be an electrician, correction officer, police, fire, military. And so the kids know when I'm preaching these academics, I'm not preaching that everybody's going to go to college and just be successful in life. So we really spend some time on this. All year long, we do grade checks. I used to do them by pen and paper, but now everything's online. So, but even though it's online, the kids can't tell me, well, coach, you can log in and look up my grades. No, they still have to log in. And what they do normally now is they screenshot it with their phone. They send it to their leader. And then my 8 leaders give me all the grade checks. But the grade checks are all year long. I never let up on grade checks because it sends the wrong message. The message is, I don't care about grades in January, February, March. I don't care about you in January, February, March. You're only important to me in May when I need you eligible. And the message is, I only care about you as a football player. I don't care about you as a person. But if I'm talking to you in January about grades, the message is, I care about you as a person. And what's your safety net? So you go collect grade checks, or however you do it. Do you guys have a plan? What's your plan when a kid has an F? What is your plan? We're a bunch of Title IX schools, not Title IX, Title I schools out here, which means we're really poor. So I've always been able to get my principal to provide a little bit of money to get like an English teacher or math teacher once a week. If I'm on campuses where all the teachers are a bunch of fuddle butts and sourpusses and they don't want to stay after school, I go to the Avid teacher or I go to the student leadership group and see if I can get any really good seniors that just want to come in and help us. I'll do the buddy system. You know, you have a really smart kid on your football team, so you pair them up with the really dumb kid on your football team or the kid who's struggling. And so I've had to do it a lot of different ways. The best way is if I can get the kids into a study hall once a week with an English teacher and a math teacher there. I do the science because my degree's in physics. And so then we tackle that. The other thing we do with this, with the study hall is back when we still had books, I'd make sure the librarian gave me a book of every subject because I didn't want a kid walking study hall going, well, my book's at home. So now the books are online. So I would just require you don't come to study hall without your tablet. You're going to have a book. And the only way you get out of study hall is don't get a D or F. And this is year round. This is year round. So I had different ways of doing this. As a head coach, I was always real busy in the spring with fundraising and lots of meetings and things like that. So I showed up to the study hall anytime I was free. But I made sure that I had a non-coach, like the teacher of the year on campus, and I'd find a little money from the booster club. Most of the teachers didn't want to get paid. I could just bling them with, you know, nice polos and coaching jackets and hats. But I had to make sure that I had a coach that I could count on that would be there every Wednesday and never miss study hall, just in case I got called into a parent meeting or I called into the AD's office. I always knew that study hall was taken care of. But it was year round. And again, the message is, I care about you as a person, not as a football player. So how do you study for the kids? You know, not everybody knows how to study. So I had plans of you know, you're all going to come to my house and we're going to study for that history test or whatever. In season, this was another great thing we did. And I got this by visiting playoff practices. The year we weren't in the playoffs, I went to a playoff practice and saw this team doing it. Every Wednesday night, they practiced at 6 p.m. under the lights. It allowed them after school to do study hall. It allowed the kids with good grades to go do dentist, DMV, all that crap you guys hear about kids missing practice. Hey, take care of it on Wednesday because we're not practicing until 6 o'clock. We practiced under the lights. So we always did kickoff and punt on Wednesday nights so the kids could see the ball under the lights. And I'll tell you what, it was our most energetic practice. There was something about the bell would ring at 3 and the kids mentally could get this little bit of a break. Either they got forced to go to study hall or they go home and take a nap or they go with little Susie. And I don't want to know what they were doing with little Susie, but they would come back at 6 just full of energy. There's something about you're dragging all day and you've been through all these classes, and then us coaches, we give them like 20 minutes when the bell rings to sprint out to the field and you better not be late. And you know, they're just tired. You know, if they came in and lifted at 6 in the morning and it's 3 o'clock and they really have had no break, this Wednesday night was just high energy practice. And I could really preach to the parents like, hey, we practice on Wednesday nights. Take care of doctor's appointments, all that bull crap, take care of it on Wednesdays. And I would emphasize to the teachers on campus, you know, study groups, history projects, make up a test. Kid was absent. He's got a bunch of work to make up. Wednesdays is when he did it. So those late practices took care of a lot of things for us, and it was a really, really big deal. Anyways, make sure you guys email me. I'll send you this. I've got an Excel sheet with all the formulas. So I would have a kid in my physics class just take those grade checks and you type all the letter grades in, and it comes out to a 2.0 or 3.0. The formulas can convert the letter into a GPA. So every week I had this spreadsheet. So I knew exactly where my players were doing. And again, I put a lot of this on my student leaders. So that leadership group was a really big deal. This was a big one for us. I got this on a college recruiting trip. My daughter was lucky enough to play Division I basketball, and we went on one of her recruiting trips. We have every player in our program adopt a teacher, and we do it right in the beginning of August. There's those couple days we have to go back to work, and the kids aren't back at work yet. And and I announce to the teachers who's adopted them. And all we ask, this is the only requirement is that either you wear the player's jersey who adopted you or hang the jersey up in your classroom and show pride that you got adopted. And the kids, so every Thursday, the kids would go trade out. So if we had a home game, they'd go, the teacher, get their home jersey back, give the teacher the away jersey. I cannot tell you how much goodwill this gave to us. And what ended up happening was, and if you didn't have enough teachers, if you had more players, we started adopting secretaries and janitors and other people. And then the flip side of it is, if you don't have enough players and you got more teachers, then every player adopts 2 teachers. And you just figure that out. And what ended up happening towards the end of the year is the kids would go on Thursdays and trade their jerseys, and the teachers started making them little spirit packs with a Gatorade and a Snickers bar. The teachers started coming to the games. I'll make a quick story. So we had a state teacher of the year. She was amazing, Miss Whaley. But Miss Whaley hated athletics. She's the one at the faculty meetings would always bring up a point about, well, we don't get any textbooks, but I bet you football gets, and she always make these comments about football. And then used to just piss me off. David Valdivia adopted her. So we're at the first day of August. We had to go back to school, and we're in our insert teacher room. And I went up to Mrs. Whaley and said, hey, David Valdivia adopted you. She goes, Coach, there's a mistake. I flunked David Valdivia, junior year history. And in fact, I stepped him out. He spent the rest of the year in the opportunity room. David Valdivia was a turd. There's no way he adopted me, Coach. You made a mistake. You're right. I probably made a mistake. It was late at night. Maybe I wrote it wrong. I go to practice. David, I think I wrote this down wrong. Who did you adopt? Coach, I adopted Mrs. Whaley. No, Miss Whaley. Yeah, Coach, that's right. But Coach, she was my favorite teacher. Her class was amazing. Now, this is a state teacher of the year. He goes, Coach, I messed up. In fact, I got to go repeat her class, and I'm excited to take her class again, Coach, and I'm not going to mess up again. I went back and told Miss Whaley that. She cried. She cried when I told her that. Mrs. Whaley had never been to any athletic event ever as a teacher. She came to every football game that year with David Valdivia's jersey on. She even went to our away games. It really bridges that gap between the players and the teachers. So that's been a really good program for us. And on Fridays, it's really cool because our players wear jerseys at school. And then all the people they adopted wear their jerseys. So your school is like, at lunch, it's amazing. It's just a sea of jerseys. You've got like 100, if you got 50 players, you've got 100 jerseys walking around campus. And it's really cool for school spirit. Our players pick a teacher of the week every week. And the teacher of the week, it gets invited to a practice. Sometimes they don't come. But there are VIP guests at our team dinner Thursday night. And there are VIP guests at the game Friday. They get to go out for the coin flip. And they get to be on the sideline, and they get to go in the locker room with us at halftime. And that's really went a long ways with a lot of teachers, because there's a lot of teachers on your campus that have never been in a locker room. Like, it's amazing. If they went to high school and didn't play sports, and now you invite them to the sideline of a football game and they go into a locker room at halftime, like it just blows their mind, because if they've never been part of sports, and I can't tell you, it's just been super positive for us when we were able to do that. I've talked about the leadership thing that I've been talking about, and leadership cannot come from you. It cannot. It just doesn't work. If all the leadership is coming from you and the coaches, it's never going to work. You've got to have ambassadors. You've got to have players. And I know you asked me to talk about culture, and I think it starts here, because culture also cannot start from the head coach. You have to get a group of disciples. You know, Jesus had his 12 disciples, and you get them to believe. And then those kids are at the parties, and they're in the locker room, and they're in class, and they're at lunch, and they're preaching what you've been, for lack of a better word, brainwashing them with. And that's how you change your culture, right? And because those are the kids that are going to do it. Let me tell you something. You're going to have culture, whether you like it or not. It's either going to be bad or good culture. Like culture is going to happen. So you might as well control it. And what I want to do is make sure I have a bunch of what we call thumb pointers, right? Count on me, coach. I'm your guy. I don't want a bunch of finger pointers. It's his fault. It's that, they have better players. They have more money. And I preach that, right? Let's be thumb pointers, not finger pointers. And I have a whole curriculum that I take our kids through this. I handpick the leaders. And we go every other Monday, January, February, March, and April. I usually don't do it in May. and I take those leaders somewhere in the summer, hopefully on an overnight retreat, but I always take them somewhere to reward them for giving up those 2 Mondays a month. And then we do it in the weight room, the whole team in the weight room. We will pick a couple of Wednesdays and do some leadership lessons also, the big ones. And I think that's really big. You know, I think we really take this for granted. And I think a lot of times coaches will just be like, again, you're a senior, you know better. You're a returning player, you know better. How does he know better? Who's teaching it to him? His single mom or his dad that's unemployed or his, you know, older brother who takes drugs? Like, who's teaching him leadership, right? We can't assume it. So I just make sure that we do it. And that's what I'm talking about with the weight room and the Monday nights. Because we lift at 6 a.m., I don't bring my kids in on Thursday mornings to lift. That's their sleeping day. But the leaders come in and I buy them breakfast. They come in their street clothes. I usually get a bunch of Egg McMuffins and some orange juice. And we just sit around for about 15, 20 minutes and we talk before they all go to school. And they kind of are the pulse of the team. We do that on Thursday mornings. Our whole team comes in on Fridays. We lift on game days. Our kids love lifting on game days. Our Friday game day morning lifts are very energetic. This is the first lesson I give them. It's the John Maxwell stairs, right? And I go through it and tell the kids, you know, where we want to be. And a lot of people make the position of, I'm the teacher. Just do it because I told you. You know, I'm the police officer. Shut up or I'm arresting you. You know, I'm a senior. Shut up or I'm going to beat you up. That's position number one. Then you get up to number 2 and number 3. And then I really tell the kids, it's hard to get to 4 or 5. And the example I always give is most mothers are number 4. And, you know, nobody gets to number 5. Number 5 is Jesus Christ, Martin Luther King, Muhammad Gandhi, you know, Rosa Parks. There's only a few people that get to 5. But I explain to these kids, you know, because we talk about being a leader. Well, what is a leader? You know, do they all get in the same category? We talk about vocal leaders versus leaders by example. They're both valid, right? Not everybody's got to be the rah-rah guy. You could be a great, strong leader being silent. So these are some of the topics I go through. Like I said, we got 2 January, 2 February, 2 March, April. I probably have about 8 or 9 lessons that I can hit with these kids, and they're pretty in-depth. I spend about an hour. I make sure I buy them some Domino's pizza every Monday night when they do it. Why do I do it on Monday nights? Because there's never basketball, wrestling, or baseball Monday nights. I know Monday nights is no conflicts. But we always have to meet like at 6 p.m. because I have to wait till baseball practice is over or basketball practice is over. So I make sure when they come to the room, there's stuff waiting for them. Does somebody have a question? No? Okay, so these are.
I think it was just someone getting on and their mic wasn't muted yet. Sorry.
Okay. And so anyways, these are the qualities. These are the things. Oops. These are the big ones I want to hit, right? I only got 8 or 9 meetings, so I can't get too deep with the plow, but there's definitely some things I want to hit. There's an example lesson plan. This is a couple years ago, and those are my resources. The book by Jansen and then Parker. But you know, lately I've really moved towards. I don't know if you guys have been following Brian Kite, the guy from that Ohio State one that worked for Urban Meyer. His stuff's amazing. And then the other one that's been a big one lately for me is gosh dang it, now it's slipping my brain. That's how amazing he is. That Randy Jackson book was okay. I don't know. It was too philosophical for me. I kind of migrate to stuff that tell me what I need to do. Give me the lessons. And that's what I love about the Parker book is they're actually written like teacher lesson plans. And it really has helped us. Oh, no, it's a website. 3-dimensional, the 3D leader. And there's a whole certificate and course you can go through. It's like, it was the best $150 I ever spent. Because they gave me stuff I could use. It wasn't philosophical. It was like, I need something I could take out in the trenches and use. But so I have it written out. That's my lesson plans. That's the stuff I cover. And then we kind of make sure our kids understand, you know, it starts, and that's the other thing too, especially seniors. They think because they're a senior that they're just entitled. They're automatically going to be the captain. They automatically can boss people around. They automatically get first pick of their jerseys. You know, those seniors feel like, well, I get to pick my locker. And you're like, whoa, cowboy. Leadership starts with you. How about you start by looking in the mirror, right? You have a 2.0. Your mom says you're a total jerk at home. I see the way you talk to your little brother. Dude, you're not a leader. You're not a leader. And so I always start with that, right? Leadership always starts as self-reflection. And I hope all of you guys that went through the same evolution I went through. I got handed the keys to the city at 28 years old. I had no business being a head coach. And it probably didn't hit me till like 35, 38 that I wasn't a very good football coach or a very good leader. I was winning games because I knew football, but I wasn't having the long-term effect that I wanted to. And it was because I had some personal demons I needed to address. I needed to deal with some things personally, and I needed to invest myself into some books. At that time, all my books were Tubby Raymond's Wing T book and defensive books and 101 drills. It was all for me about drills and X's and O's. And I was never reading. Well, then all of a sudden I started reading John Wooden and Pete Carroll and these amazing books, Tony Dungy, Servant Leadership. And I had to invest in myself. So it's really eye-opening to the seniors when you tell them to look in the mirror. You tell them to look in the mirror, right? And how they feel about themselves and how do they control their emotions. Because until I get to 1, 2, and 3, then I can't hit number 4, right? And then I can't evolve from being dependent to independent, which leads to confidence to take action. And this is a journey. We spend a lot of time in that. By the way, those Monday meetings are not senior only. I make sure that I invite a freshman, a couple sophomores, a couple juniors. So some of these kids, if they are a senior, they had been through this stuff, for 3 years with me, and then they started getting it. Application, right? That's the big deal. I think a lot of coaches miss the boat is coaches do this incredible job talking about leadership, and they have all these great examples of leadership, but are you putting your kids in positions where they can actually lead without you standing there? We do a car wash every year. I hate freaking car washes. You give your whole Saturday, you make $800, right? But us coaches, we sit in the lawn chairs and we tell the leaders, this is your show. Run it. Either we're going to be the laughing stock of the town and we're going to refund everybody their money, or we're going to wash all these cars. And it's amazing watching these leaders that have been meeting on Mondays. You got towels, you got drying, you got rinse, and going through that. We do our one Saturday a month, we do a team building activity. So if we're going to do dodgeball, I'll go find 2 leaders and say, okay, you guys are in charge of the dodgeball. Here's what you got to do. I give them a list. Go reserve the facilities. Put a flyer on social media. Make sure we have balls. Make sure we have this. Make sure the pizzas are ordered. Tell me how much the pizzas are going to be so I show up with a check. I'm not organizing this dodgeball tournament. You organize it. Let these guys be leaders when they go collect the grade checks, when they have to go collect the cookie dough money. They've got to be leaders, because what happens when they go collect grade checks? And when Johnny Turd says, I don't have my grade check. What's your answer, senior leader? How are you answering that when Johnny Turd says he doesn't have a grade check? How are you answering that when you go collect your car wash tickets and somebody says, I'm just going to give you all my tickets back. I didn't sell 1 ticket. What's your answer, Mr. Leader? So I've already taught them on Monday nights. How do you respond to that? Do you respond out of anger? Do you chastise them? Are you condescending? Or are you a leader who's going to help that person and find solutions, right? Because that's what real leaders do. Leaders take this problem and find a solution. So then the person who was Johnny Turd walks away feeling like, wow, that guy's really wanting to help me. He didn't lecture me. I wasn't in trouble. He's trying to genuinely help me. So this was a really big deal for us in giving them, these are the opportunities I give them so they can be leaders, right? And then I talk about our team building, bowling, paintball, dodgeball. We always try to do like one Saturday. So never January, it was too hard, but we always did a Saturday in February, Saturday in March, a Saturday in April. May was hard because in California we have spring ball. I don't think in Massachusetts you guys allowed to have spring ball. So we always try to have 2 or 3 fundraising. And these Saturdays was a great recruiting tool because I would invite every boy on campus, and they all showed up for dodgeball. And I would get a couple of football players out of it just because we were having so much fun with this kind of stuff. I really believe in these overnight trips. I really believe in them. So in May, we'd always do a Friday or Saturday night. Now here, it's lucky for me, Fellowship of Christian Athletes organizes this amazing camping trip. they take a church camp. Church camps in the summer sit empty in the spring. So Fellowship of Christian Athletes found this church camp that sits idle in May, and they rent it every weekend, and eight schools come up every weekend, and there's no football. So you're there Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, and you're playing dodgeball and canoe races and relay races, and you're doing all these really fun activities for team building. But the reason I make sure it's overnight is because of the campfire. You've got to get your kids around a campfire, and it's got to be quiet, and crickets have to be chirping, and God's got to be breathing down their neck. And it's nice if it's in the mountains because the cell phones don't turn on. And in May, we're kind of in a goal setting mode. We're trying to, at the campfire, talking about where do we want to go with our program, how is summer going to look. And on Friday night, the coaches do all the talking, and then on Saturday night, the kids do all the talking. And if you do it right, there's not a dry eye. Every May trip I've ever done for 16 years, I haven't been able to do it in Pennsylvania because I live in California. I did it for 16 years in California. The kids are bawling on Saturday night, like hugging, crying. I've got kids getting off drugs. I've got kids not wanting to do marijuana. It's very powerful if you do it right. We do it again in July. July's more fun. Again, I have a beach right 2 hours from us. So I always try to find a way to take the kids to the beach and we splash around and have some fun. But there is a campfire and we sit around the campfire and we revisit those goals we set in May. Here's the powerful one. So we don't do 2 days in California anymore, but we still have August camp. And so usually the second Saturday, we find the nearest KOA campground to our school. And I have the parents kind of in advance go set it up. And so we have our Saturday morning inter-squad scrimmage. It's always our scrimmage against ourselves. It's usually the second Saturday of us starting. And we do this in Pennsylvania. We put all the kids in a school van, and we take them to this KOA campground. And I've got a couple of dedicated moms, a couple of fathers. They have the campgrounds all set up. And they show up, and they've been scrimmaging all morning. It's the end of Hell Week. So we have a lot of fun. So 4 or 5 hours, they just run around and have some fun. What they don't know is in July, I went and bought the cheapest T-shirts I could find with our school colors. And we went and found all the guardians, moms, whoever's raising our kids. And we said, listen, I need every person who loves this kid to sign this shirt. And it's amazing. And I give them about 4 weeks to do it. I say, the kid cannot know that you're doing this. They UPS it back, to relatives' houses. They send it to Mexico. So grandmother, mother, and girlfriend, everybody signs it. There's, we love you, mijo. Your dad's looking down from heaven. He's proud of you. And the older brother's like, I'm so proud of you. I was a Panther. Now you're a Panther. There's just all these incredible sayings and scriptures all over this kid's T-shirt. They're cheap. These are like the $3 or $4 one color T-shirts. When we get to the campsite, the parents have hid these shirts off in the bushes. So the kids have fun. I bring them to the campfire, and all my coaches stand up and they give a Hell Week story. What was Hell Week like for you as a coach? Why did you do it? What made you get through it, right? All this conditioning, and it's hot and blood and sweat. Because kids think we're doing it to win the championship. Kids think they're doing it to go undefeated. And what you're really trying to get the kid to understand is that's not really the reason you play football. And I know as coaches, hopefully you agree with me, the real reason you played football and why you still coach is because the impact it had on you. It wasn't because of the championships. It was the locker room and the bus rides and the camaraderie, right? Playing for your brother. That's what this campfire preaches. So the kids kind of hear all these coaches' stories, right? Then I go through my speech is always, and I got it from Simon Sinek. Your why has to make you cry. There's a famous book about finding your why by Simon Sinek. I don't even think he's a football coach. He's a business book. It's a little white book. I should have these books out for you guys, but it's right up there. It's a little book. I read it in one night, and it's talking about your why has to make you cry. So I tell the kids, I explain to them, what if I guaranteed you we're going to go 1-10 this year? They all look at me, Coach, we're not going 1-10. No. Guys, if I guarantee you, I said, guys, the state association came in and we're illegal, we're on probation, and they said we have to forfeit every game. How many of you would quit? what they find out is none of them would quit. I said, so it's not about the championships, because if I promised you that we're going to go and 10, you would all still play. Why? And I get to this, your why has to make you cry, but then I stop it. I don't let the kids talk. And I have to stop the speech at the right time. And I say, all right, go into the woods and find these presents we have for you. The kids don't know what they are. All the t-shirts get returned in shoe boxes with the kids' jersey number on the shoe boxes. The kids go find their t-shirts. They don't know yet. They come back to the campfire. It takes about 30 minutes. They sit around the campfire. I said, okay, guys, now we're going to talk about your why. Why do you do this? And they open up this box. They open up these shirts. Niagara Falls. They're all crying. They're reading all these messages. I say, that's why you do it. You do it for your brothers on this campfire. You do it for the city. You do it for your hometown. And you do it for your family. That's why we do this. In fact, that's why we live. And then they wear that T-shirt every Friday night under their shoulder pads. That's why I get the cheapest shirt, because it gets all ripped up by the end of the year. But it reminds them every Friday when they put their shoulder pads on, why do you really play this game? And these camping trips and our leadership and our weight room and our dodgeball tournaments, I think what happens is collectively, it takes about 3 years, but a lot of boys on our campuses end up coming out for football because they hear from their friends that football's special. So this Pennsylvania program I just went to, I think they were 3-7 the year before I showed up. The head coach that brings me in was already there, but they were 0-10 the year before. My first year there, we had 23 players. Last year, we had 52 players. And this year, he just told me, here we're in a pandemic, he has 72 football players sign up for football. 3 years ago, we had 23 players. But it's because we do this kind of stuff. We have our team dinners on Thursdays. We just do lots of fun things. And I think there's lots of boys who know they suck at football, but they come out because they want to be part of all this. And the word spreads. And I think if you've heard anything tonight, what you've heard common from grade checks to camping trips to everything is the message is loud and clear to the players that we love you as a person, not the jersey you're winning, not the jersey you're wearing. And that was John Wooden. John Wooden had a big influence on me about don't talk about wins and losses. Talk about the journey, talk about doing the right things, and the winning becomes a byproduct. So I'm kind of wrapping up. The last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is this one. So now it's into the season. Now you got to play this pretty good. Now we were 12-0 this year, so we knew we were going to have a home playoff game. So we did it in game 11. You could do it in game 10 if you're not sure about your playoffs. I know you guys have that big Thanksgiving tradition, so maybe you could do it the night before the big Thanksgiving Super Bowl thing that they play in Massachusetts. We always do a team dinner on Thursday nights. So the team dinner on Thursday night, this team dinner, however much room I have in the cafeteria, wherever we eat, the seniors can invite guests. Obviously, mom and dad. Sometimes I let them have a girlfriend. And that's the only team dinner that the linemen don't go first. All the underclassmen have to go and get the food and serve the seniors and their family. And the ideal is that tomorrow night could be this senior's last game, could be the last time he ever puts on a helmet. So, guys, even though we don't preach this all year, tomorrow night, we're going to play for the seniors. And right now, you're going to serve the seniors. And I always play a highlight video while they're eating. It's always a highlight of the previous week. But that night, I've got baby pictures and different pictures I've accumulated. It's a tribute to the seniors. This video is playing about the seniors. And so mom's crying and they're eating. And then we don't do a lot. Normally, our team dinners, we have a guest speaker. We do helmet stickers. We don't do any of that. So after we eat, we go out to the 50-yard line. So all of our kids are there. We make sure all of our freshmen and JVs are there. We make this big circle, and all the seniors are holding a candle. They don't really know what's going to go on. All I've told them is, I said, hey, tomorrow night I'm going to hand you this candle. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. What was your greatest memory? What was your greatest regret? And what's your message to the underclassmen? So they've had a night to think about it. And then I said, and then you're going to give that candle to an underclassman. That's all they know. So we get out to the 50-yard line, and each coach gets in the circle and talks. And it's got to be serious. I tell my coaches, no jokes at all. There can't be any laughter, or you're going to mess it up. So every coach gets out there, and every coach starts with, I love you guys. Seniors, it was an honor. Thank you for letting me coach you. And usually each coach gives some sort of memory that he had, college or high school, or maybe a regret. Sometimes you have assistant coaches who have some regrets, right? They didn't maybe finish their career. Then we call each senior out to the circle. And I have a microphone with a little speaker because the kids get very emotional and sometimes they can't speak. And they give the whole team their greatest memory, their greatest regret, and then they give a message to their classmates. And all their messages are exactly what you want them to say. Guys, you got to get your grades up. I didn't have good grades. Now I can't play college. Guys, you got to hit the weight room. I didn't lift my sophomore year and I regret it. Guys, you got to be dedicated. You got to show up all summer. Like the seniors are telling the underclassmen what you want them to say, and you don't have to tell them. Then they give the candle to an underclassman. So the underclassmen come out to the circle, get the candle, they hug, they go back out. When all my seniors have spoken, I've got these 9, 10, or 11, 12 candles, and everybody's like, okay, coach, what do we do with it? I've got these freshmen and sophomores and juniors holding these candles. I say, these seniors tomorrow night could be their last game, but they are not leaving our program. Their legacy is not leaving our program. That candle, as long as that fire is burning, they're still in our program. What they've built, the foundation they've left, has never left our program. And so I said, so put that candle by your alarm clock. Put that candle by your dresser. Put that candle where you brush your teeth. Because all of us have that little voice in our head that's going to make you want to quit. And why are you doing this? And that candle is going to remind you that you can't quit. Because next year, if you quit, I can't call you in a circle and say, oh, this candle was given to us by Jimmy, and Johnny gave Jimmy the candle, because like in Pennsylvania, sure, we called everybody out. We had 3 years of candles. So every candle had 3 names attached to it. Well, if a kid quit, those 3 names weren't announced next year in the circle. So I tell them that's a big honor. And then there's a bunch of kids not holding a candle. And I kind of call them out. I say, if you're not holding a candle, the senior must have been nervous about giving you a candle, because the senior must think you're going to quit. You're not going to make it. And that senior didn't want his candle extinguished. So if you're not holding a candle, you might want to go home tonight, look in the mirror, and ask yourself why you didn't get a candle. This thing's powerful. You'd have to really go deep on my Facebook. But if you look at my Facebook thing from November when we did this, all of our Pennsylvania seniors had their candles. Thanks, Coach Stewart. And then, like, when they hold the candle up, that candle represented like 3 players, 3 seasons. At Porterville, I was there for 5 years. So kids were coming out, and when we were calling out seniors, when these kids were 8th graders, and it was really powerful. I'm like, this kid's in Afghanistan. This kid's serving our country. This kid's a firefighter. This kid's married. This kid went off to college. And the kids are like, whoa. And then it goes back to what I said at the very beginning of this. It all ties into, you've got to be part of something bigger than yourselves, right? You're not just playing for yourselves, and it's removing that selfish gene. So that's been a really big thing. And, a couple of closing thoughts, and I'm going to kind of wrap it up. I don't know if this guy was what you guys were looking for when you invited me on this, but
Absolutely.
this is how I've changed culture. And, it's only 5:30 out here in California. So we can just talk questions or just kind of chat. Maybe I'll just unshare my screen here, and we can kind of go back to whatever we're doing. Well, nobody left. All 17 guys are still here. So maybe, I don't know if maybe he fell asleep.
No.
I like that. User's iPhone. Where'd that female coach go? I saw there was a female in there. She left?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, there was a female coach earlier. I was curious what she was coaching. Guys, shoot, man. Anything? You guys got any questions of me or anything? Massachusetts is a different bear than California.
Yeah, they're all different. I have a question about like inherited staff. Have you ever had issues with, you take over these programs that struggle? I'm guessing you can't just clean house and bring it. This isn't like Alabama, where you just.
And so what happens is they fire the head coach,
but
you inherit all the assistant coaches that went 0-10 with him.
Right.
So, first thing you interview them all. And I tell them, I go, because they all come in, I coach running backs, I'm a coordinator, I'm this. I go, the spring and summer is your interview. And I always tell them, I'm the coordinator. I'm going to call the defense. I'm going to call the offense. I'm going to call the special teams. And I've had a couple that kind of got smart mouth with me. A couple quit on the spot. But I'm not planning on being the coordinator. I tell them, I go, I'll name the coordinator in July. Let's see who the grinders are. Let's see who's going to buy into this. And coach, so there's been 4 schools that I've walked into, total losing programs. And actually, there's 2 other schools that I took over where I fell. We weren't able to turn around. In fact, one of them I got fired. At all of them, I easily could say that at the end of the first season, I probably lost or fired at least half, because they weren't drinking my Kool-Aid. They weren't going to put in the work I needed. And I think it's part of the reason why I've always went 2-8. The 3 in Pennsylvania, in California I took over. We went 2-8 my first year in all 3 schools. Pennsylvania, only because the head coach had already been there, I was able to go 9-1 my first year. But the reason we went 2-8 is because you inherited all the assistant coaches who went 0-10 with the poor guy that got fired or resigned. Yep. So that's been a tough one. I think right away you have the meetings, you have your expectations, you have everything in writing, and you demand it, right? And all this stuff I talk about, guys, we're going to delegate. You're in charge of this. You're going to do this. You're in charge of this. We're going camping. You're going to show up. I don't want to hear about that your daughter has a birthday party. I don't want to hear it. We're going camping, and you better be there. And then there's the coaches that can't, and coaches aren't growing in trees right now. It's not like we've got you guys don't have like a stack of resumes on your desk of guys dying to be your wide receiver coach on the JVs, right? So unfortunately, you have to keep them around, but they don't get any coordinator jobs. They get, I put them down on the JVs. I'll put them down on the freshman level, and sometimes they just quit on me, and then sometimes I'll let them go. But I would say easily half of the so McFarland, 0-10, player had died the year before on the kickoff. We had 3 coaches, and we coached 50 football players, because you know what? Nobody even wanted to coach. But those 2 guys were really dedicated, and we just rolled up our sleeves and we coached our asses off. But that's a tough one, because you can't fire them, right? You can't clean house. Somebody's got to coach the wide receivers. But I'll tell you what, think out of the box. You don't have to have individual stations. So that year at McFarland, we had 3 coaches. We didn't do endos. The D coordinator would take the D linemen and the linebackers. I'd take the DBs. And then the next day, I'd take the linebackers and the DBs do 7-7. The D linemen got endos. Linebackers never got endos because it was just the 2 of us. The 3rd guy took the JVs. On offense, we were always in groups. We just didn't do endos that year. So I think sometimes you have to think out of the box on that when you don't have a lot of coaches. And don't force yourself going, well, I have to have a wide receiver coach. No, you don't. If you don't have any qualified, the wide receivers are just part of the drills. They're just going to be with the running backs all the time. I'd rather have less coaches, right, than have a couple of bad, just like your players, right? I don't want any sort of cancerous coach who's backstabbing me to the community at the barbershop. I'd rather just not have a wide receiver coach, or I don't have a DB coach. And I tell the guys, hey, I've been doing this a long time. I could coach this team by myself. And, oh, you're so arrogant. Oh, well, I'm just telling you, I could coach the team by myself. I don't have to do individual drills. I could do lots of half line and group drills. So, but I think the expectations right at the beginning. I don't come in Mr. Nice Guy, and I don't name anybody coordinators. I say, guys, these are the expectations. I hope you're getting on the train. It's going to be a fun jersey. If you give me time, you will like me. I'm a pretty likable guy, but we definitely are going to work harder than you did last year, and that's why I'm here. So I think those one-on-one meetings and the expectations are really big. The other advice I'd give you is the one that chats my hide is when you're in practice and the coach doesn't have his practice schedule out. It's rolled up in his back pocket. Or the 2 coaches are sunflower seed eaters and they're sitting next to each other talking. We have kind of a rule. There's 2 unwritten rules in our practice. If I yell at you and say, Coach Paniski, we're on play 7, I always say the number 7. We could be on play 18. We could be in individual drills. It could be a tackling circuit. If I say, Coach Kwinaski, we're on play 7, I'm telling you, get your practice schedule out and get back on script. If I say, if you two are talking and I say, Coach Burns, Coach, Taylor, we're on play 7, I'm really saying, can you two walk away from each other and stop talking? And then after practice, we're going to talk. And I'm not a dick about it. I just tell them, guys, we're adults. We can go get a beer. We can stay here all night. We own cars. We can stay here all night and talk. Those players have not seen you. You were at your job all day. These players only get you for 2 hours. Give them all of your attention and then talk after practice. Don't talk on their time. The other one I have is if it's getting really bad, I'll just blow the whistle. We don't take water breaks. The water comes to us. We have this water bottle system where we have girls and injured players bring us water. So if I blow the whistle and say, hey, team, go get water, what's really happening is I need to have a coaches meeting right now. I can't wait till after practice. I need to fix something. So water breaks is kind of the impromptu coaches meeting, is like, hey guys, this ain't cutting the mustard. This is a shitty practice. And sometimes it's not the coach's fault. Maybe we're just having a shitty practice, right? I send the players to water, it's an intervention. So that's kind of how I handle that, Coach. But you inherit some bad ones. I'm laughing, but I wasn't laughing back then. Any other questions, coaches?
Anyone?
No, this is great, Coach. It's just, you've said it, you've referenced it a couple times. Massachusetts is just such a different animal in that we're not allowed to do anything sport specific out of season. And so it makes it a little difficult, but we try and find ways around it.
Yeah, when I've done those camps, we've had this talk over beer, and they're like, well, we can't take our team on a camping trip. Because isn't your rule like from Thanksgiving to August 1, it's kind of like hands off? And then you're allowed to go to a college team camp in the summer, and I think you're allowed like 20 days in the summer. Like, it's very strict.
We don't get the 20 days in the summer. We can be around our kids as long as it's not football specific. So how do those guys bring me in for the camps? Because it's a camp? Yes.
50%. Because you're coaching them, and in theory, they're not supposed to be coaching their own kids.
Well, you know what? And that is what happens when I come in. I kind of do run it, and they all kind of stand there and take notes. So if I was coaching in Massachusetts, I couldn't do the overnight trips. That'd be tough on me. I do the August one in Hell Week. I could do the candle ceremony. I think in the spring I could still do like dodgeball and the fun stuff, because I literally open that up to all boys on campus. That's not a football thing. Well, that's just Saturday and we have fun. I think you could still do the academic game plan. Could you sell your principal on the Monday night leadership meetings?
Yes.
Yeah, you can, as long as you're not talking about football.
Yeah. So from what I'm hearing, then it basically would stop me from doing my May camping trip, my July camping trip, well, all my summer workouts, right? So you guys don't lift weights in the summer?
No, we could do non-football specific. So we could do weight room. Theoretically, you could do a camping trip. It just can't be football specific content.
So guys, I'm telling you right now, and I've gotten negative feedback from assistant coaches. In fact, I had one of the jobs I couldn't turn around. That was the evaluation the AD gave me and he inspired me. I would take all those kids in May to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes camp. We didn't do any football for 3 days, but we spent about $7,000 on that camping trip. We had like 10 or 12 kids accept Jesus in their life. We're doing all this team building stuff. They had college athletes show up and they would lead us in dodgeball and we did tug of war. There was all this fun stuff, right? And the AD, that was I got criticized for it because there was no football. He says, why are you spending $7,000 to go to a camp and you're not doing any football? So if I was coaching in Massachusetts, I would still do that May camping trip. I really would, because that trip's like life-changing. And I'd probably be more aggressive to do it in Massachusetts, knowing that I was going to be so handcuffed in the summer. I would make sure that some of my leadership stuff and nutrition and some of this other stuff I talked about, I really try hard to interweave it into the weight room. And I tell you what, too, the weight room, not only got to make it energetic, it can't always be a grind. Probably every 2 or 3 weeks, we do something really fun in the weight room. We do that 300 workout that they did, all the actors did for the movie. We'll do relay races. One day I brought in Kobe Bryant's workout. Back then, Kobe was still the young player that nobody liked. So our players were like, Kobe Bryant, yeah, he don't lift. He's a basketball player. Nobody could do his workout. And they were shocked that a basketball player did this workout. One time I brought in John Cena's workout. I said, guys, we're going to do the workout John Cena did, and it just kills him. So I don't think that would intimidate. Now that I'm thinking about it, so I wouldn't have the 7-on-7. I wouldn't be on the field, but I can still do all the leadership stuff and all the weight room stuff. I think the weight room's just powerful, man. The problem we all battle is attendance. The kids don't show up to the weight room. And that's a tough one. I don't have a silver bullet for that one. My answer is bring a friend, and I go knock on doors, and I try to convince the mom. If I get the mom in my corner, the kid's going to go to the weight room. I got to convince the mom. Yeah.
I know you said a lot of your kids worked. Like I said, I grew up in Salinas. You had the grapes and the raisins. We had the iceberg lettuce and the artichokes and the strawberries.
Yep.
A lot of my kids out here work. They do a lot of landscaping, and so they're at work by 6 in the morning, and they're not off till about 4 or 5. When did you only have one lifting time during the summer?
No. In fact, at McFarland, we only lifted at night. I didn't even mess with the mornings. It was futile. 85% of my kids were in the field, so we would lift at like 6 p.m. at night. I actually probably took it a little easy on them because I knew they had to be at work the next morning. They were going to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, so I didn't really bust their ass that hard. We only went 3 nights. We only went Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights. When I got to the bigger school, it was a lot more players. So yes, we had the 9 a.m. Scott for the guys that wanted to get in, get it out of the way, and then we would and the coaches we'd split it up. So I didn't make every coach come to every weight room. In fact, what I did, I put coaches in pairs. So I'd say, you 2 coaches, you have Tuesday morning. You 2 have Tuesday nights. You have Wednesday mornings. So the coaches weren't giving up never more than one weightlifting. Of course, I was there all the time. But yes, Scott, absolutely, I split it up. Absolutely, okay. I split it up. When I had kind of an even mix. Pennsylvania, same thing. I'm very envious. Our kids are very hard workers. I think all of our kids on our team work during the summer. So I know in Pennsylvania, and I'm going to go, I would have been there in June if it wasn't for the pandemic. We did everything in Pennsylvania last year in the evenings. Everything was in the evenings because the kids worked, and that's admirable. I don't want to take that away from them. I think that's good that they're working. They don't work in California. They're lazy. The non-immigrants are lazy. So yeah, I'd split it up. What I won't split up is during the season, like during school year, spring. I've always had a coach telling me, well, they all want to sleep in. If you go at 3 o'clock after school, then I know if I go at 3 o'clock after school, then nobody's going to come at 6 in the morning. So we just all showed up at 6 in the morning. And I had school board members, I have principals, I've had ADs tell me, why do you go at 6 in the morning? Why don't you go at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? And that's just one thing I won't budge in. I think as a team, we're all getting out of bed and lifting is good. We can have the multiple sport athletes there in the morning. And I just think that saying about iron sharpens iron, right? Adversity really builds teamwork. I was in the Marine Corps, and when you come out of boot camp, or any of you guys that have been through any kind of really tough experience, you come out very bonded with the person who went through that experience with you. A death in the family, it either makes the marriage really strong or it breaks the marriage apart. I just think that 6 in the morning from January to May is really powerful because a team that's all gotten up together at 6 in the morning, man, they're going to be tough to beat on Friday nights. But in the summer, Scott, absolutely. I would split it up.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions?
I can turn this into a pistol wing tee because you know.
Well, let's save that for another date. We'll go skiing another day.
You're going to make me pull my girlfriend Sally out, huh? Wrap around Sally, baby.
Oh, there you go.
Coach,
Hey,
thank you very much.
You're going to, Eric, if you can make sure I get all these guys' emails, because we're going to be doing some pretty cool webinars. We're all getting into that RPO world. So Kenny Simpson, a guy named Scott Meadows from Tennessee, another guy in Vancouver, Washington, he's running shotgun. Of course, I'm pistol. We've got 3 or 4 webinars coming up this month. And we're really kind of focusing on some of that out-of-the-box wing T thinking, right? The non-buck sweep stuff, RPOs, getting a little bit more sexy in the passing game. So, in fact, tomorrow night is an all RPO, but those are spread guys. We got Jason McManus and another college coach going to talk RPOs tomorrow night. But if you guys get on my email list, we're doing like 3 webinars a week.
About half of these guys, I don't know. They were just Twitter guys, so they can reach out to you on their own. And I'll send you all the guys that I have. I'll send you their emails when I send you the video.
Okay. Yeah. And if you're following me on Twitter, I announce all of our webinars on Twitter.
Yeah.
As soon as we hang up, I'm posting tomorrow's webinar on Twitter. I'll have the other one posted here about an hour. But there's some, for Scott's thing though, there's some really cool wing. If you're wing T, Massachusetts is a big wing T state. We got some really cool wing T stuff coming up in the next 3 weeks. But every Wednesday is air raid spread RPO stuff. We moved it to tomorrow night because Eric had asked me to go on tonight. So I moved the RPO guys on tomorrow night. Hey, those air raid guys can step aside.
There you go.
Hey, every homeless person I could go down the street. Every homeless person on the corner holding a street sign's an air raid guy. Like everybody runs the air raid.
They probably got a certificate too. Sorry.
Yeah, pay me $500 so how Mama called my AD. Hey, how many of you would apply for a job and the AD, first of all, even knows who How Mummy is? And if How Mummy calls the AD, you're going to get the job. That blows my mind, right?
That's nuts.
I'm going to walk into a job interview and say, I'm certified in the area. If any of you guys are head coaches, I don't even get asked X's and O's questions in those interviews. For head coaching jobs, right? Am I right? There's no X's and O's questions. So
it's all the stuff you just talked about right now.
Right? It's usually it's a parent, it's the AD, the vice principal, a couple of community members. They don't care that I walked in with a piece of paper signed by Hal Mummy. I'm not knocking Hal Mummy. The guy's a genius. He's whatever. But to walk into an interview with a piece of paper signed by him means I'm going to get the job. Whatever.
Even in college, you don't get asked anything X's and O's in the interview.
Right? Exactly. It's about how do you motivate? How do you handle discipline? What do you do if your individual drill is not going right? How do you, right? I'm with you guys. So it's been fun to watch that little Twitter war. You guys watch that Twitter war going on between some guy named Austin and then James Light.
James Light. Yep.
I don't know either one of them, but I think James Light's winning.
He sure is.
I played with James in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, judging from the Twitter, a lot of people are supporting him.
Yeah.
He seems like a good dude. I mean, everybody's really supporting him.
Disclaimer, I am air raid certified.
Uh-oh. Where's your certificate?
No, I didn't do it for the resume builder. I did it just, to get all the nuts and bolts and round out my knowledge of the offense.
I'm a wing T guy. If Tubby Raymond or Dennis Crehan came out with a bunch of courses, I would pay $500 to hear Dennis Crehan or Tubby Raymond, rest in peace, right? Or Bruce Cobley. I would pay $500. I'm like you, Steve. I don't need the piece of paper. I don't want to be certified. Hal Mummy probably is worth $500, right? He's Hal freaking Mummy. But
yeah, I mean they're doing a 3-day clinic all online, and it's free for air raid certified members. So all that, and I didn't go, like last year I drove across the state to Grand Rapids. I live in Michigan. I had to drive across the state, put myself up in a hotel, pay for glacier, all that stuff. I didn't do any of that this year. So, $500, I'll spend that on clinics and coach tube videos and stuff like that anyways. So
I think some of us spend $500 just in beer at those clinics.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
Hey, that's the other one when you get home, right? And your wife's looking at your credit card bill. Why did you have to buy everybody beer again? Explain that to me.
I don't know.
Anyways.
Coach Walker and I know how to stay cheap, right, Coach?
You know it. You know it. Very frugal.
What was it? The Fiddler's Inn, baby, in Nashville.
Best spot in town.
Coach Stewart, thank you very much. This was great, man.
Hey, great stuff, Coach. I really appreciate it.
No, it was fun. It was fun. Nothing like talking ball. So send me the recording, and then maybe you guys can join us on the. Well, Steven, I think you would really get a lot out of that RPO one tomorrow night. Those guys are.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna check it out for sure.
Guys. Those guys are both air raid guys. They're talking tomorrow night. All right, guys.
All right, thanks again, Coach.
Thanks,
Coach.
All right.
All right, Coach. Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Appreciate